Hey everyone, today I have two cards for you showing you some fun ways to use background stamps. I love large cling background stamps. They're some of my favorites, but sometimes I want to get a little bit more out of them. So today we're going to stretch those background stamps a little bit. I'm going to show you two cards. This is the first, uses a couple background stamps, and here is the second. So I'll walk you through the different parts and pieces. But first I wanted to mention that these two cards were inspired by this card. This is a card I did a while ago, and I'm part of the Case Study Challenge blog this month, and I'm their muse, and they're taking older cards of mine and coming up with new cards inspired by it. So this is the card that I was inspired by, a card I did a while ago. So now for the cards today, I'm using some of the new Hero Arts background stamps. These are actually ones that they did with Basic Gray. Hero Arts has lots of great new products out, and I always love their backgrounds. So what I'm going to do is start by picking a few of my favorite backgrounds, and I'm going to ink them up with Versamark ink and then add some white embossing powder. And then I'm just going to white heat emboss on regular white cardstock. Now this background is called the vertical arrow, and I think this is my favorite of all of them. So I'll show you a fun way you can kind of get more out of this background first. Whenever I ink up these stamps, I like to leave the rubber side facing up, press my paper on, and keep one hand holding it still while the other pushes around to make sure that all the ink transfers. I just would rather get it right the first time, so I spend a little time pushing that ink onto the paper. Now here's my white embossing powder. I'm just going to add this on here and tap off the excess and then use a heat gun to heat set it. Now I went ahead and repeated this with the other different backgrounds I showed you before. You can't really see the white embossing here on the white cardstock, but you'll see it a little bit later. Now I also decided to cut these into strips. This is that vertical arrow pattern. I'm going to cut it in strips right along the pattern, and that way I can get a bunch of cards out of this one piece. So actually for this card that I'm going to be showing you in a bit, I only used 3 pieces of this so I can save the rest and make additional cards later. If you've watched my videos before, you know I like to make more than one card at a time. It really saves up on time and actually helps with my creativity. So I went ahead and cut some strips from the other embossed backgrounds that I created. Now for this card, I used some of these strips to go diagonally hanging off the card, which I think is a really fun thing to do. I cut the card narrow so the pieces could hang off and still fit in the envelope. This is the stamp that I use, the background stamp that I use for those strips. It's great for background, but also for these embellishment sort of strips. So I have this white heat embossed image on the white cardstock. I'm going to take my Distress ink. This is the Mode Lawn. I love this green color. And I'm going to go ahead and just rub it over the embossed area with my ink tool. Now you'll notice I'm only doing half of the piece because I'm going to take another color here. I'm going to come in with the peacock feathers. That's my favorite of the colors, and rub this over the other half, and you'll notice that I'll overlap in the center, causing them to blend. This is a great way to get a good blended look with colors very quickly. Now you can use any other inks for this that you want to. I just find that the Distress inks blend so well together that's perfect for this technique. If you don't have inking tools, you can use makeup applicators or even your fingers if you wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some more peacock feathers to another strip. This is just another one cut from that background that I showed you before, the scalp background, and then I'm going to use some pumice stone on the other end. This pumice stone is a great gray color that I really like. When we add some shimmer to this later, it'll give it a really cool metallic feel. Now you notice here those two didn't blend real well, so I'm going to go back with some of the peacock feathers and just rub it right over it. That overlapped center will blend very easily. So there we have a couple pieces. Now for the third one, I'm going to overlap the other two colors. I'm going to go back to that green Mode Lawn color and go ahead and blend that into the pumice stone. Using the Distress inks is great because they're designed to blend well. So you can blend any colors together. So even colors that normally wouldn't blend well together do so easily when you use the Distress ink. If you've watched any of my videos before, you've seen that I use like a pearlized water to spray this to add some shimmer. Another way you can get the same effect is with the Wink of Stella marker, which I've been using a lot lately. I just kind of scribble some onto the piece and then rub it in with my fingers, and you can quickly add a nice shimmer, very subtle, onto anything that you want. And so I did it over the inked areas, and you can see the nice shimmer that you get across these stamp strips. Now before we go on with the rest of that card, I want to jump to this one and go ahead and do the ink strips on this too. So you can see these ink strips. These were cut from the embossed background that I used that I created with this vertical arrow background stamp. I just love this background stamp. You can see I kind of cut from the pattern, so I have these herringbone or chevron strips. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some ink right over these, the Distress inks again, and allow them to blend together. So that is the picked raspberry, and over this I'm going to add the wild honey. You'll notice that I didn't cover the whole strip. That's because I know I'm only going to use a small portion of it. But look at how that pink and that yellow kind of blend together to a nice orange in the middle. I'm kind of going for a rainbow effect here, so I've got my squeezed lemonade next, and this is a nice bright vibrant yellow. Now I didn't clean up my craft sheet that I'm working on here. I did that on purpose because I wanted some of that orange and pink ink that's on my craft sheet to kind of blend in with these. So you can see how there's a little bit of that orange kind of transferring on my paper. I really like that. It's one of the things that's fun about Distress inks. You can allow them to blend together. It's really quite forgiving, and you can get some great looks. Add some mowed lawn to that. Now I'm going to go add some more yellow on top, and you can see the nice blending in the middle. Then for the final strip, I'm going to use the peacock feathers. This is my favorite of all the Distress ink colors. And then I'll finish that off with the salty ocean, which is another great primary blue Distress ink. So you can see how these strips look on the card. They're really nice, bright, and vibrant. Now that we have all of our strips done for both of these cards, I'm going to go ahead and show you that background. On both of them, I used the tiny star background. This is another new one that's just fantastic. I think this would be great for so many cards. You could do it for Halloween, Christmas, birthday, anything you want. Now for the first card, I'm going to use the new Hero Arts Silver Shadow ink. This is a great silver ink. It's very subtle. It gives a nice gray metallic look. And I like it because it's almost like a pigment ink, so you can actually add some embossing powder to it if you would like. And then you can also add some perfect pearls to it, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So I went ahead and pressed that all around so that I could transfer the ink, and look how great that background stamps. Now I could leave this if I wanted to, just let it dry for a while, but instead I've got a brush here, and I'm going to take Perfect Pearls, which is a nice pigment powder. This is the Perfect Pearl color of Perfect Pearls, which is just a nice white, and I'm going to brush this on here. Now this ink isn't super messy, so I can brush it without smearing it. After I've applied it all, I just take the brush and I firmly go back and forth to knock off all the excess. Now you can mist this very lightly with water, and it'll set these powders, and you don't have to worry about them rubbing off. But I just leave it as is. I feel like it's perfectly fine this way. So I'm going to take this and turn it the wrong way, and then turn it the right way, and that'll make sure that it closes tight. Now I'm going to go ahead and add these strips to the card. We created these strips earlier, but I thought it'd be fun if we made it kind of look like these strips were coming up from the left side of the card and kind of shooting off to the right. This card is cut to 3 1/4 inches wide, so the strips can hang off and still fit in the envelope. But what I'm going to do is I'm gluing that left side of these strips straight down onto the card, but then tucking some foam adhesive behind the right end of it. So it looks like it's kind of lifting off from the left to the right. So I'll hold it up here. You can see it's flat on the left, but then raises up to the right. Just kind of gives it a fun look in real life. So I'm going to do that with the other strips also. I added just flat adhesive onto the left end of it. Then I'm putting some foam dots on the right, and then I'm going to go with some even bigger, thicker foam dots all the way over to the right. So it looks like it's kind of lifting off as it goes to the right on the card. Once I've got all 3 strips down, I'm just going to cut off the extra here, and I'll later add a gray cardstock strip to give it a finished look over the left-hand side too. I love to have pieces hanging off the side of the card. I think it's fun and unusual. Now for these letters here on this, I'm using a stamp set that came out this spring from Hero Arts. It's the typewriter alphabet here. I think this is fantastic to add little greetings and a fun different element. Instead of just a plain greeting, that circular element's great for breaking up cards like this one that has a lot of straight lines. So I'm going to stamp this with my black ink. I needed 2 L's, so I went ahead and stamped it twice. Then I'm going to use my 1/2 inch circle punch just to punch these out. It's perfect size for the 1/2 inch circle punch, which many of us already have. So after I've punched these off, I'm going to go ahead and add them with foam dots onto my card. Quick and easy to do. And then to give them a little bit of shine, I'm just going to squirt some glossy accents on and spread them around and let this dry. And it gives a nice shine onto each of these popped up letters. So here's our first card. We used some background stamps for the strips, and then also for the silver background with the perfect pearls. Now for the next card, we're going to do some similar things, but kind of shake it up a little bit. This time I'm going to take that same tiny star background stamp, and I'm going to ink it up with Versamark ink and stamp it onto a card that's cut narrow again. This is 3 1/2 inches wide. And then I'm going to take my pearls, Perfect Pearls onto this. So that's a clear ink that's stamped on there. So when I take my Perfect Pearls, it's going to end up just giving me an image that you won't see straight on, but when you tilt it, you'll get this marvelous shine. That's just fantastic on those little stars. So I'm going to brush this around after I'm done. I'm going to take my brush and go back and forth real firmly, and that knocks off all the excess. If you want this to hold, again, just give it a light mist of water. What I like to do is spray it in the air and then wave my paper through it, kind of like you would spray perfume in the air and walk through it. You just need a fine mist, and that will set this powder and keep it from rubbing off. So now that I got that done, you can kind of see that background there. When the light catches it, it's really quite cool. I'm going to go ahead and glue these strips down. The first one I just glue straight onto the card, and the other two I'm going to glue down with foam adhesive. Now I've been doing a lot of cards lately with strips of cardstock kind of shooting off in different directions. I just think it's a great way to use some stamps in a different way, and it's a design that seems to always work. Now for the greeting, I actually have this holiday stamp set, and I love to use holiday stamp sets for regular occasions. So I thought this greeting, "Oh What Fun It Is," if I just covered up "It Is" and just have "Oh What Fun," then I could have a totally different greeting that would work for a birthday. So I just covered up the words at the bottom so that I only inked up "Oh What Fun" with black ink and stamp it. Now you'll notice there I kind of boogered up and I dropped the stamp on there, but I wanted to go ahead and finish the card. I'm going to replace it later, but I'm going to go ahead and finish it. I didn't have much time to go replace it now because my daughter's about to wake up, so I'm just going to finish it as is. You'll have to forgive. I make mistakes all the time. So now I'm just going to punch out some black stars from this EK Success border punch. This is just a quick way to create my own embellishments, and I'm going to glue these on with glossy accents. So there you see my mistake again. I could try to cover it up, but I couldn't really come up with a way. So I'm just going to redo the background and move those strips onto a new background once I'm done with this. So I'm just going to show you how I would go ahead and finish this and just add these with glossy accents. Then I'm going to take my Wink of Stella glitter pen. This is just a nice shimmery pen. I used it earlier on some of the strips that we created. I'm just going to scribble this onto the stars, and then I'll go put a glossy accent coating over them so it dries with this nice kind of raised shimmer. It's really quite fun. So here you can see the stars kind of shimmering in the background and the fun colorful strips. And here you can see the card all fixed up where I redid the background so that I got rid of that mess up. So there you have a few ways to get more out of your background stamps. If you have any questions, head to jennifermcguireinc.com, and the supplies are listed below here at YouTube. Thanks for watching.